I'm Pete Schell, Schell Custom Boatworks. I guess I've been here for, I think it's coming up on 9 years now. My whole life I've been involved in boats, and I went to the Northwest School of Wooden Boat Building, which was an amazing experience. And I stayed on afterwards as a volunteer, which really got me comfortable working on boats. And luckily, not too long after that, I got a job at David Beaton & Sons. At Beaton's, I got to work with a lot of really great people. One being Tom, who taught me a lot, and Paul Smith. Can't say enough about him. He's got a lifetime of experience. We recently picked up 2 jobs. They were 2 Abaco dinghies, a 14-foot sailing Abaco and a 10-foot rowboat. We found those in a barn in Freehold. Slade Kirsch was a gentleman's name, and he was the grandson of one of Slade Dale's friends. They were originally owned by Slade Dale. He went over to the Abacos and picked them up and brought them back in 1959. The small one was a tender that sat on davits of the Coastal Queen. The bigger one was used very little. In fact, the paint was still the original paint. We laid everything out outside the barn, and when you step back and you take a look at what was there, it was really neat because you're looking at some real history.
I know it was a Slade Dale boat, but I don't know the history of it.
We believe that these are authentic Weiner Malone Abaco dinghies. He was building down in Elbow Key in the Abacos, and I think there's still a big effort to restore all Weiner Malone's dinghies, especially the 14-foot sailing dinghy. I believe there's a pretty active racing class with them as well. And that drove the idea of keeping it traditional and authentic as well. When we did pick up the dinghies and bring them back to the shop, that day, we put them in the water immediately. They were such cool boats and in such great shape. We wanted to put them in the water, and we wanted to go for a row and look at them in the water, because you don't get the true idea of how nice looking these boats are until they're floating. The goal for these boats are to go with the Coastal Queen. We are currently building a new mast and lifting boom for the Coastal Queen. That will be used to hoist the dinghies up on deck if need be. The smaller dinghy will most likely be hanging from davits off the stern, and the bigger one will probably be stored on deck. This is the Coastal Queen's mast. This is a solid piece of Douglas fir. Once it got here, we realized there were several things wrong with it, and also things that we wanted to improve on. One of them is the fact that it's broken. There's quite a bit of rot that goes pretty deep into the heart. The original mast here for Coastal Queen is a solid piece of Douglas fir, and it's boxed around the heart, which means it's cut so that the heart runs up the center of the piece of wood. If you mill a log like that, it is least likely to check. You can see here that all the wiring running up to the deck lights and the instruments are all exterior. So building it hollow gives us the opportunity to house them inside the mast where you won't see them.
My name's Drew Schell, and I've been working here for a little over 1.5 years now. with my Uncle Pete and my other Uncle Johnny. Working for Uncle Pete's great. I love him. He's my uncle. He lives a couple miles away from me, and yeah, it's fun, you know. He's family, and he's my boss, but it's not like having a real boss. I get to talk about, you know, my dad and everything else in our family, and I don't know, it's fun. Today we're gluing up staves for the Coastal Queen mast, and we have to scarf them out, plane them out, make them all nice and so they can fit perfect, and then we'll dry fit them, glue them up, and clamp them down. Come back tomorrow morning, take it apart, and do that a couple more times until we have all 8.
We'll put our marks on here. Just drawing some witness marks on the scarf. This way when the glue's wet and we stack them, it's easy to line up. This one gets clamped in place now. They're prepped, dry fit and marked, and now we'll get ready to glue them up.
I come down 3 months out of the year and help my brother make things happen. We get the boats in the water, we finish up projects. This is crunch time of the year, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to come down here and do something I love as well and help my brother out with his passion. It's been tough this year, you know, material-wise and stuff like that. We're fortunate enough to have material to work with. This has been a hunt for the last couple of months to try to find material. It's obviously a shortage nationwide, and we came across a truckload and we bought the truckload.
John and Andrew are adding some thickener to the epoxy now, and this is used as their linen fibers, and it's used as a gap filler. So any imperfection in the scarf joint will get filled with epoxy. So the consistency we're looking for is maybe like ketchup. Yeah, that looks good. Yeah.
This all happened with coronavirus and COVID for me. I needed a job, I needed to make some money, so I came here with my uncle. I started loving it and decided to go out to school to Washington State to the Northwest School of Wood and Boat Building, where Uncle Pete went, and I'll be out there for a year, and hopefully I'll come back smart and know everything about building boats.
So we've built this bench and a tent here behind our shop, and this is where we're going to build the mast for the Coastal Queen. So we've laid out the actual spar on the bench and drawn it full size. And here we are drawing out cross sections throughout the taper, because it goes from 10 inches to about 5 inches at the top. So there are 8 staves, which is a full length of wood from end to end. It's 8 narrow pieces that make an octagon. So when we glue it up, it'll be an 8-sided mast. So these 2 staves are glued up and all dry. So all these sections with all the clamps, these are our scarf joints that are clamped together. So we're gonna pop all these clamps off and separate our pieces. And then I'll just rough chisel the glue off. This is a great way to dull your nice hand tools. Trimming epoxy. Now if you're really accurate with your scarf joints, it takes minimal trimming.
I've come down for most of the big projects with Pete. We've done a couple really big restorations on both Cigar and Demeter, which are Pete's flagships here. One built in 1896, the other in 1905.
Uncle Pete's one of the smartest guys I know in boat building terms. He sees something in his head and it can just come out like that, and you start to see things come together, and you don't know, you're like, in the beginning, you're like, how how do you see this coming together? And all of a sudden it's there. He's really smart and he knows what he's doing, and he's really humble about it.